All right, I think this is recording. Okay, so the question is, how do you go about doing it with new customer acquisition? Just get your foot in the door, land and expand, get your foot in the door with the customer, start small, and then, get them onboarded, grow that account later on, down the road, then worry later on about expanding it. Or do you try to just go for the big one right up front? Go for the big sale, go for the whole shebang, get as much as you can up front. That's kind of the question. And I'm going to just dive into two specific reasons why here at Lead IQ, and it might be different, everybody has a different sale depending on who you're selling to, and the way your product works and stuff. In the industry and everything, it might be different. For us, we do the second one. We're making a conscious effort to do the second one, which is a longer, more thorough evaluation process. So a longer sales cycle, um, and closing a bigger sale up front. So like for example, instead of closing, a small deal for just 10 licenses up front and having that be a sales cycle of only 2 weeks, and then you're hoping that they expand and grow that account later. But a what if they don't? What if they don't expand? Then you're left with only a 10 customer that's only got 10 licenses. B, what if they expand but it's not for another 6 months? So you close that sale in only 2 weeks, but it's only 10 seats, and they don't add on the other 70 seats for another 6 months. So what we would rather do here at Lead IQ, what we would rather do is have that sale take a little bit longer. Maybe that sale takes a month and a half, or maybe even 2 months. Say it takes 2 months, but you close all 80 seats right up front. Isn't that better? You know, and so there's two specific reasons why it's a win-win. Obviously, for me personally as a sales rep, I close a bigger deal up front. I'd rather, me personally as a sales rep, I'd rather close an 80-seat deal in 2 months than close a 10-seat deal in 2 weeks, and then 6 months later they add on another 70 seats. Obviously, that benefits me more as a sales rep, but also think about it from the customer's perspective. For them, they're going to buy, they end up buying the 80 seats anyway. So obviously they needed, how many did they need? 80 seats, obviously, because they ended up buying 80 seats 6 months later. So why wouldn't they have just bought the 80 seats up front? From a customer's perspective, I can't talk. It's the end of a long day here. Customer's perspective is, it's better for them to do the longer, more thorough evaluation up front, because then, rather than a really quick transactional sale and buying something on a whim after only like a 1 or 2 week long evaluation, for the customer's perspective, do they really know that they're choosing the right vendor? Have they been able to go through all of the proper channels and done the proper due diligence? Have they involved enough stakeholders from their team to better understand each of the different teams, the different business units that they have, and the different requirements? Probably not. You can't do that in only 1 or 2 weeks. Have they done enough testing? Probably not in only 1 or 2 weeks. So they end up probably buying the wrong solution. So from the customer's perspective, it's better to do a longer, more thorough evaluation, especially if we're talking about mid-market or enterprise sales. If we're talking about selling to companies with over 500 employees, or especially over 1,000 employees. And then the other reason why it's better for the customer is they buy, they need the 80 seats either way. So by them, if they only buy 10 seats up front and then 6 months later they buy the other 70, well, guess what? That's 5.5 months of loss of productivity. 5.5 months that 70 people, 70 human beings that aren't getting a license up front, but they end up getting a license for those other 70 people, but not for another 5.5 months. That's 70 people that are going to be struggling to do their job for 5.5 months. Every single day that's every 70 people who are going to come into the work to work for 5.5 months at a disadvantage. They're going to have a disadvantage when doing their job compared to the 10 people who got the licenses up front. The other reason why it makes sense for the customer's perspective as well is time savings for them. Think about it. If they only buy the 10 licenses up front, and then they end up, let's say they don't buy the 6, the other 76 months is later. What happens more often, that from my experience, is, during that 6 months, it's all these onesie twosies. I've been there. I've been there where I'll get emails from prospects like, "Hey, can we buy one more license? Just hired another rep. Can we're onboarding 2 new reps next week. Can we get 2 more?" All these onesie twosie sales, and that's a time suck. That's a time suck for the sales rep. For me, the sales rep, processing these orders, sending out contracts for just 1 seat here, 2 seats here, and then having my implementation team and our onboarding team have to onboard 1 rep, for one, implement just 1 license or 2 licenses here. That's a time suck for me and my internal resources here for us. But then also the customer, they're having to email you, take time out of their day to email you, "Hey, can I get 1 license? Here, 2 licenses here." Then they're also having to take time out of their day to send the contract over to the right person who's going to sign it. Then they have to sign it. Then you onboard these people, for just 1 person here, 2 people here. That's a time suck for the customer as well. When that customer, they could have saved so much more time if they had just bought all 80 licenses up front. So anyways, I know this is a long video. What do you think about all this? From watching this, what do you think? And how do you guys do things at your particular company